Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. And today it's my pleasure to introduce a book to you which I found very helpful. Very interesting. I happen to know the author of the book, having appeared in front of him, and I'm delighted to recommend this book to you. It's called Breaking Law. It's really a memoir and also some very sound advice. It's got a subhead, The Inside Guide to Your Legal Rights and Winning in Court or Losing Well. And it's been written by Stephen Gold, who will be known to many of you as a recently retired district judge. Now, the book has come to us from Bath Publishing, and Elizabeth and I talked about the book as prior to our writing the review, which has appeared already in the Surrey Lawyer and in a number of other Law Society publications. Obviously it's got a lot of publicity, much more widely than that, and there's a website which is breakinglaw.co.uk which is worth looking at as well. Now, I've given the title of our book review A First-Rate and Delightful Reminiscence from former Judge Stephen Gold, who tells it as it is, and that's exactly what he does. Now, let's have a look at the book first of all. There's the website to go with it. There's the front of the book, blue, nice blue cover there. There we go. And there's a foreword by Martin Lewis, money-saving expert, because frankly an awful lot of the work that is done at this level is about money, about problems people have. Now, there's the spine. Now, there's the back. You see a picture of Stephen there. Let's move that up so you can see that. That's Stephen Gold there, and then you can see the basic information, and of course it's Bath Publishing, and there is the website information. Now, opening the book up, it's quite a heavy book for a paperback, and it runs to 500 odd pages. It's page numbered. The index at the back is page numbered, so it's quite useful to have see how the index is structured. And then you've got right at the back some quite interesting subject matter of the 500 odd pages. Now, without going too far, I'm going to go to the front of the book and show you how the titles of each chapter are broken down. There's the front page, and then there's the information, and then there's a dedication, which I want you to see there. I always like to make sure the dedications are shown. Now, you can see the structure. There's a foreword and then an introduction by Stephen Gold, which explains a few things, because he's bringing in the whole of his life and what he's actually been doing, some of the people he's dealt with. Some funny things happened to me on the way to court, then help, and then all the various things. So it's a very readable book. There we go. You can see the way the structure of the book goes. Judgment has been given, rights and wrongs, gone shopping, see you in court, home under attack, relationships before and after. So really very much the sort of work he was doing when he was a judge. I mean, for instance, all the family law stuff, domestic violence, of course, cohabitation, the no sex agreement, money for kids, behind with a mortgage, all the usual stuff, which is very much bread and butter work for district judges, it covered here. I think anybody who wants to be a barrister or solicitor should read this book, because it will give you a very good insight into how to approach members of the bench about these types of matters, and remember that they are human beings just like anybody else. And I think that's always important to bear in mind, because you must think about them, and they've got to make the decision. So therefore you've got to make sure that they have sufficient information, and also you've got to, of course, know what the law is. Now, Martin Lewis has given a very good foreword, and I'm delighted he's been able to assist, because what he says here is very sensible. And then, of course, Stephen has given an introduction as well. And then he talks about legal aid, and basically most of what he says we concur with, because we are people dealing with the sharp end of what has happened at Westminster. And we're bound to have a slightly different approach sometimes as to those people in the Houses of Parliament. Now, chapter 1, look, no maths. Now, I'm not going to spoil it by telling you what's in here. There's plenty of stuff, but I think even by that little statement, you probably get quite a good idea of the approach that he adopts throughout, and the chatty style the chatty style that he actually adopts. Witnesses and their statements. I love this, chapter 14. Sock it to him in writing. There was a time when neither the court nor the other side had a clue what a witness was going to say until they got into the witness box and opened their mouths. Now we have cards on the table approach to evidence. Well, I'm glad. Now look, this is a great book, and it's certainly one I think you should read. And give it to your partner for Christmas. Now, the comments. What do we have to say? I've got some short comments which are actually in the journals because of the amount of space that was available, but this is the longer version of my review. Anybody who's appeared in front of Stephen Gould will have remembered such an experience, and this book will prolong the memory it does for us. His delightful new title, Breaking Law, is written now in his capacity as a former judge. It is his specific points and views in the book which will carry much weight for the modern practitioner, because Gould shares with us much of the difficulties and problems which all participants in the civil justice process face. And he does it, as is to be expected, with a certain amount of wry humour, for those of us who know where to look for it. And if you've been in front of him, you will understand exactly what I mean. So, what is breaking law all about? Just that, but not breaking the law. And do visit his website for the additional illumination and the blogging, which I thought quite interesting. I'm not a great blogger myself, but at least it's worth having a look. And I've had some interesting responses, even on the web, since the review was published. We're told the book is a unique inside guide to the law, which is irreverent, entertaining, and bulges with advice on what the law can do for you in countless situations. And it is again just what you read, when you read the easy-flowing passages. Now, the catalogue of legal problems which he covers are in the following areas, which may be of interest to you, whether you've been overcharged at a supermarket, overlooked in a relative's will, sold dove goods, sued for repossession by a mortgage lender or landlord, or threatened to be left penniless after a divorce. You can find help here, and this is actually a PLE book, public education book, in the sense that it is there to give you help and advice, because it's very much the mission of the man, in my view, and what he's been doing for so long as a judge, which is to give us advice, and it's worth taking. So bear in mind what he says. Readers will discover with delight the rights you never knew you had or which existed, or how to avoid getting involved in a court case in the first place. I wish a few more people would take that advice. Very important, of course, for unrepresented parties. Or how to cope with proceedings, should they be started, whether you're bringing them or defending them. And again, in this day and age, cost, of course, is very paramount. And the book is a darn good read to boot for those who must go to court for the first time without a lawyer to help them. And I did find the template letters and the court documents very helpful. For this is most certainly a book for laymen as well as lawyers. Examples which Gould gives such good advice on are important issues such as, if you want to protect yourself before setting up home or marrying your partner, then he goes on to give you the cohabitation and prenuptial agreements at your fingertips. So it makes breaking law as much a legal manual as well as a cheerful autobiography. And Stephen doesn't stop there. He even includes a template agreement on what happens to the pets should the relationship break down. Now, you think I'm joking. This can be a very important area. Family law. It's amazing. If you see the client and you see them squabbling about a little rabbit or something, it's incredible. But you would be quite surprised at how much wrangling then takes place over ownership of such, because you actually have to see what goes on in court to believe it. And take my word for it and take his word for it, because it happens. Sometimes because what happens seems so far-fetched, yet Gould is down to earth throughout. And he's judged most of the time with the bare minimum of backup help. And I'm glad he's made this point, because many of us are very familiar with the fact there's very little assistance that you have if you're a judge. Something we hope will be addressed, I hope, with digitisation, with the fourth industrial revolution on top of us. Now, I say that both as a barrister, and I understand from his position as a judge and that of his colleagues that they really do need to have a little bit more assistance. When you get to the top of the judicial tree, like the Supreme Court, the assistance is fabulous, no question about it. The facilities are there, but at the lowest level it's not quite as easy as that. And unfortunately, we deal with a lot more cases in the lower levels than they do way at the top. Now, throughout the text, keeping it as lively as always, Gold describes some of his own legal tussles, more of course than you would imagine here. So you have a picture of his own inimitable style when pursuing and protecting his rights and those of the clients. And we particularly like the bit about the craze. And having actually visited some of the establishments he's mentioned, I understand exactly what he's saying. Gold says that this book is for you if you're forced to go it alone without a lawyer. And that's true to a point for the lower courts. Where you do need to be represented, he describes how to find out about getting representation before releasing any cash. He concludes that all of which means that if you thought there was no way you would ever be able to get your case through court, this book may prove you wrong. It does, and it's a cracking good read for all, in my view. Now, the most useful foreword has been offered to us by celebrity financial advisor Martin Lewis, whose name is becoming much more well known now. He's on the television, and he is the money saving expert. I have to say I've not seen any of it, but I understand from what I've read and what I see here that he's very, very knowledgeable. Lewis, as always, gives us what I think seems to be very sensible advice on money for what the most vulnerable in this area have when they pose the question, what would a judge say? Always the best question to ask, because you undertake any form of legal action in the view of many with a great deal of care. So you need to think, really do need to have a little bit of prescience about the way in which you think about the way a case may go and how you've prepared it. Let me conclude that what I've just said is really that this just about sums up the joy of this book, which because it reveals what someone who until very recently dispensed justice at Kingston upon Thames Court, and it explains how he thinks and how he would approach what he describes as an enormous compendium of problems. And I think we're very grateful to him for doing this, because it's done in his own particular style, which I thank him for, and I do think it's a great contribution. I'm still battling with public legal education. We're trying to expand it in the post-legal aid world, and I think these books will help people, which is what it's all about. It's not just about making money, it's trying to help people, and I think that's what he's doing here. Do have a look at his website. Not all the answers, of course, are here, but it's refreshing to hear from a man recently retired from the bench with such honesty and openness about the problems we face daily as legal advisors. So thank you, Stephen, and a very happy retirement to you. There's the book. Go out and get it, and you'll find it's well worth it. Thank you. Bye-bye.